Are you on the edge of your seat? Because we're about to sound off with Kevin Williams, covering today's latest trends in location-based entertainment. Brought to you by the LBX Collective, your community to connect, engage, and inspire. All right, everyone, let's buckle up.
All right, well, welcome everybody to Sound Off with Kevin Williams. This is episode number 133 for... oh man, what would this be? This is for August 25th already. This is crazy, 2026. So we are flying through this summer. It's nuts.
It is nuts. Are you sure about 25th?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's up. I'm sorry. Actually, I think it's the 18th. I'm sorry. I had the that makes sense.
Don't get me scared because on the 25th I'm presenting.
Yeah. I'm like, wait a second. You're going to be at Amusement 360 and it's on the 25th. So no, it is for August 18th to clarify. So that's much better. But
I
know
it's moving fast, Brandon, but you don't have to help it.
I'm just trying to get to IAPA Expo. That's all, right? We're just trying to accelerate, to the Expo. So anyway, all that being said, how are you going to change my mind this time around?
Well, it's the time now that many operators are going to be thinking about new machine purchases and replacements in some cases. Others, they will hold their powder dry for IALPA. But for many, there has to be a hard decision made within their methodology of what they're doing with their amusement floors. Are they creating a game hall, to quote a certain CEO of Level 99? Are they creating an entertainment facility? Are they creating an arcade? The methodology and the mentality of the individual of what you're doing. And the reason I have that image there is that it gives us a nice juxtaposition over a couple of years, couple of decades to be exact, from 1996, where we saw a popular racing game given a consumer racing game given a new lease of life, put into an amusement cabinet from a well-respected developer, and it was a network cabinet that's really pushed upon its multiplayer option. We jump forwards to 2026 and we have a popular consumer racing game that has been given a second lease of life, that has been put into a racing configuration cabinet by Wallap this time. The difference between Wallap and Midway is quite considerable, but I would also say that Gameloft, the developer of Asphalt, and Nintendo really were developing content for a consumer market that has now had a second lease of life as an amusement piece away from the console and PC market. What I'm really trying to say is, while the machine technology may have changed, the cabinets now have motion, much bigger screens, and connectivity through the wazoo, the fundamentals of the play model still exist. And for many in the amusement sector, they may have either not been born with a silver quarter in their mouth to understand what it is needed for product layout, placing, clustering, utilization of space within a facility. And we're seeing this a lot. A lot of the new locations that are opening up at the moment, their machine placement, their actual amusement game experience is clustered around the plugs. They just move machines to a locality where they're not a trip hazard, and that they don't have to stretch the cable too far, and jobs are good. And doesn't necessarily mean that you understand the guest experience if you're just dropping the machines in like popcorn.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and especially the evolution we've seen really significantly in the last, I'd say 7 years with the larger LED displays and the vertical displays, and really trying to drive the spectator aspect of the gameplay. So before it was very much about, I'm getting in the seat, I'm watching my little CRT TV screen, because, the technology was limited to some extent, but it was also very focused on the individual game player's experience. It is now about a collective experience.
Exactly.
And if you have these large screens, you have these large deployments, you need to take advantage of that and put them in key places where it's going to drive not just spectatorship from the group of people who are there together to play together, but also to be able to draw in others who are watching that gameplay and say, oh, I want to tap my card to play this game next when they get off.
It's an essential component now of the placement of machines. It's not just about the players, but it's the audience as well. Who's got next, as it were? We're not putting quarters on the back now, but the people standing behind those players wanting to join in, to be part of this, need to be accommodated. It is also part of what I keep on going on about, the phygital environment. These screens are large and bright and dominating. And how many operators, when they drop in a machine like Asphalt 9, actually know that they can control the information that is pushed on the screen during the attract mode, where they could actually be promoting their card or their latest deal that they're doing, or their Christmas or Halloween plans, that they could actually be using these screens as signage within their facility as well as entertainment.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, coming up after the quick break, we will dive right into the trends. Intercard makes cashless easy with award-winning readers, self-serve kiosks, real-time reporting, and flexible guest payment options. From play cards and credit cards to mobile payments and QR codes. Since introducing the industry's first card system in 1989, Intercard has helped operators reduce cash handling, increase guest spending, and run smarter venues. Intercard is the world leader in cashless technology. If you aren't already part of their global family of customers, they hope you'll become one soon. Visit intercardinc.com to learn more.
Well, thank you for that. And we've got a lot to get through, jumping straight into the biz. And we have some arrivals, and it's congratulations to Una for taking on the position at Enchanted Parks to handle, which I think is going to be a very hard job, the Chief Marketing Officer for the 13 different operations that fall under their retinue. Now, many of you may be scratching your head and saying, hold on, Enchanted Parks, that name's familiar. This is the operation that was specially created and restructured, and that took on the Six Flags Wayward Parks that were picked up. They've also picked up a number of other water parks and lodge operations, and they're growing an operation which I would say is moving at a pace to become quite an important North American entertainment and resort operator.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited about this one, more on a personal level as well. I've known Una for a number of years. She's the outgoing now chair of the Manufacturers and Suppliers Committee for North America at IAAPA, because she's now no longer a manufacturer supplier. She's gone over to the light side, I guess you'll say. She's been on the dark side for a long time with all of us.
Which is sometimes I criticize that there's a wealth of knowledge there that they're losing just because she's gone from the vegan side to the bacon.
Yeah, yes, no, certainly. I think we just joke about that, but I am excited for her. And hopefully one of the first things she will do is undo the AI generated Enchanted Parks logo.
Yeah, we will be touching upon that later on in this particular podcast. And I would also point out that I picked the best of their AI generated branding. You know, she's got a job there to really slap that brand into touch, and to get a website that actually is functioning would be a good idea.
Yeah, for sure. Well, she's the one to do it, and looking forward to seeing her success over there.
Yeah, hope we should try and twist her arm and get her on to Guest Gab, I think, Brian.
Yeah, that would actually be a lot of fun.
Moving on, we have another arrival. Dave is a well-known individual in our sector from the plush, an amusement side. I knew him when he spent his tenure of over 12 years with I know it's NEN, but it's the National Entertainment Network. You know, that operation under the surface that had all of these truck stop and amusement facilities with their cranes, which was then consumed by Gender. From there, he went on to spend some time with BMI, and now he's parachuted in to be the head of their sales operation at Pixel Plush. We've been keeping an eye on Pixel Plush because they've had some interesting approaches to what you're loading your prize machines with, as well as looking at the future of handover of the entertainment and prize business. And hopefully we'll find out exactly what their plans are moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, lots of experience here, and interested to see what happens with Pixel Plush. That is one I'm not as familiar with, is from a merchandising standpoint over, and so it'd be interesting to see his level of experience, what that brings for them.
In the North American amusement market, there are a small but very dedicated number of merchandiser, prizes, performers. The rest of that business is usually filled up by distributors who import their own material, or now corporations such as Gender that are looking to import their own merch and then supply their own crane machines. So where Pixel Plush goes from this point and how they survive in very torrid waters is going to be interesting, and a very important position is being filled here at this point. Some departures. I actually didn't have any time to meet with James while he was with Sandbox VR UK. This is the franchisor, first with their Dublin site and then with their London sites, or their two London sites at the moment for the Sandbox VR properties. He's been with the company for just around a year, and he came really from a background in the hospitality market, and now is moving forwards into a new position, which we haven't been informed yet of where he's going. Neither has Sandbox UK informed us of who will be taking his position of business development manager that he's vacating.
Interesting. Well, I feel like there's been a good amount of shifting happening at Sandbox VR, so we will continue to see what that I won't call it fallout, but what the adjustments bring to the table.
Restructuring,
yeah.
We've seen, as I pointed out, the C-suites rumination, but here from a franchisee's point of view, they need to keep their momentum going. They need to be positioning. We still do not know how their Toka social partnership went to install Sandbox VR facility inside one of those. These are all the things that I think the new incumbent to the role will have to roll their sleeves up and get to work with.
Yeah.
A surprise appearance or promotion. So if you're not familiar with Golfzon, Golfzon is one of the largest, I think the largest providers of golf simulation lounge tracking technology. Very big in China and Asia, very big in North America. But these are mainly the non-entertainment golf lounges, simulators that you see at golf retail stores. Those have migrated casually towards being now entertainment venues, and we can trace the 5 irons and the X-Golf explosion based upon the popularity now of taking the golf simulator away from a training aid and as a sales aid, and now turning it into a full entertainment operation. We knew that they were currently working on that, and I think we've actually talked about it in previous open and shuts, that we've seen the odd facility open, but now we've had the curtain pulled up a little bit and we get to see some detail about what the plans are from this quite large organization. And they are planning to roll out flagship sites, very large flagship sites, 175,000 square indoor spaces. Those boxes, for those looking at the picture or listening, sorry, you can't see the picture I'm looking at. This is an internal warehouse style space that has been decorated and themed to represent putting greens and a large golf area. And each one of the little boxes, or not so little boxes, strewn across this particular area are simulators. Those are projection screens inside there. So once you've played the short game, you then walk into one of these simulators to play the long game, simulated through a projection trackball simulator system. And they're now proposing to roll out Golf City. The first one will be opening in Nashville. This will have 18 holes. It'll have also 18 simulator cocoons, as I would like to call them, or tents. And this sounds like a major investment. It is a major investment, but it isn't their first time at doing this. We are now led, information has now been revealed that they've already developed 2 of these facilities in China, and it is based upon their Chinese rollout of their concept that they're now applying that model to the first of the North American, with plans for about 30 facilities of this concept to be open internationally. That 30 number is always the magic number the company quotes, I think, in a press release of how many they expect to open in the next 5 to 10 years. But this marks a very big player entering the market. This is a kind of operation where, if it gets it right, this could give the live internal entertainment projects that we were talking about previously a very big run for their money, and will also sit on the shoulders of other gamified golf experiences as the golf industry invests very heavily on their next generation of players that they're trying to encourage to the sport.
Yeah. I mean, this is a significant and impressive build here. So I just pulled up their website. Obviously, they are not open yet, but they are, you can join the mailing list and you can claim your founding membership. They're obviously there to drive memberships. I'm sure they will get people who come in and visit, but this is a member model, very much like joining a country club. But yes. Yeah, I mean, you are basically teeing off at one of these holes, at one of these golf sims, the Golfzon sim, and then walk across to the green and then putt and finish your gameplay on an actual real putting green, and then walk to the next hole. So what that's it's really impressive that you can obviously play different golf courses and so have different challenges, but yet come and then finish on a real putting green as well. So you're getting both driving and in chip shots and everything else on the simulator, and then coming in and then practicing your putting as well. But this facility is absolutely massive. It's just the size of 3 football fields. Obviously, it's 175,000 square feet, all indoors. And it's really pretty significant. You can even see here they have sand traps and everything else. And this is not the fake little pop stroke sand trap. This is real sand, and you're putting it out onto turf. So it'll be really interesting to see.
It is physical with digital. The digital plays the long game, the physical, the short game. This is a location-based entertainment, and this is the largest sportainment location-based entertainment operation. I know our friends at Topgolf will sort of say, we're in this too. But I would argue that this kind of environment with this level of engagement and interactivity and gamification far extends the golfing immersive experience compared to sitting in a bay chipping some balls.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you consider you can still be with your group and still walk around. And as you see, on this, it's hard to see a little bit on this video, but it puts lasers on the ground where you're supposed to place your ball on the putting green based on what you had done in the golf sim. And then there's actually a host that travels around with you and can bring you drinks and can bring you everything else that you want. And so it's an elevated experience that you're not going to get at a Topgolf or even at a PopStroke. This is this is Popgolf, PopStroke, and Topgolf combined into a single experience.
Just keep in mind also that this golfing experience, along with the hospitality component and the gamification, also is in an extremely controlled environment. And sitting here in a sweltering London at the moment, I know a number of golf courses that wish that they could encapsulate their golf course in an air-conditioned, drink-supplied environment to guarantee some business. These are all the things that we need to be mindful of. And if Golfzon hasn't appeared on your radar, then I think it will be, especially looking at some of the financial backing that this Asian operation has behind it. Moving on, and talking of Topgolf, and we have some more transparency from the new CEO. David has been doing the rounds of all of the golf media and as well as the investment media, as you would expect a CEO trying to right the ship of state and calm concerns about the operations following the separation from Callaway, with now some dust being able to settle regarding the business model that is needed to grow and address the shortfall that we've seen on same-site sales business. And then, we've now kind of had what I like to say, the fluffing up of the brand to try and get round the negativity. We're hearing 40 million visitors each year across their chain of operations. We're also seeing, that the business is helping to bring in new golfers. And that goes back to what I was saying about Golfzon, is that a lot of these operations that are gamifying golf or making golf more trendy are looking towards the future of the boomers are popping off, and they're not playing as much golf as they used to. And you have to, for this level of entertainment, bring in a new audience. And to bring in a new audience, you're going to have to offer a gamified and appealing environment. And I'm just questioning now how much of that appealing environment can be achieved with the current model of Topgolf that he has to utilize.
Yeah, and what I find interesting here are these two numbers are not exactly apples to apples. So they see 40 million visits each year, and he wants to help bring 10 million new committed golfers into the game by 2030. And I think what's important here is the distinction between the 40 million visits each year, which are going to be some committed golfers, but also those who are there for social reasons, for corporate parties, for birthday parties, etc. And what he's really looking to do here is expand the 10 million new committed repeat visit golfers. If he can get committed golfers, then he can get that repeat visitation, which is, as we've talked about for many years now covering Topgolf, this is one of their core issues, is the repeat visitation. So he's at least beginning to think about the fact that, yeah, we have 40 million visits, but what we really need are committed golfers. And if we can generate 10 million of them in the next 4 or 3.5 years, then that's going to really significantly help improve their same store year over year numbers.
We've been talking about repeat visitation since I said the first words at Sound Off some 133 episodes ago. We've been talking about it a lot longer in the Stinger Report. It is nice to hear a C-suite executive talk the talk now about repeat visitation, though I would argue that he's in a position of encouraging not just the market to come back and revisit, but he's also encouraging his franchisees to encourage that, because understand that the majority of Topgolf facilities are not run by Topgolf, they are run by individuals who paid the license to run a franchise. And getting them to understand how much they need repeat visitation is going to go slightly against the bill of goods that they were sold when they brought the franchise in the first place. How many of them are going to balk at the idea that they're going to have to improve their gamification, maybe have to add amusement machines, maybe have to change their food and business model to encourage new audience? Or how many of them are going to say, we've spent our money, we've built our facility, you said we build it, they come, where are they? Mm-hmm. Marketing is going to be very hard here. And I still haven't seen a turbo marketing director be parachuted into the Topgolf operation yet. We've seen some C-suite movements, but again, getting the brand out there, getting the entertainment out there, getting the cost effectiveness of that experience out there. I wouldn't be surprised that we're not going to see a brand new push for membership deals to join for long-term relationships with Topgolf venues as a means to generate that 10 million he needs.
Absolutely.
and it's generating that 10 million players that he needs. We get some transparency courtesy of a number of sites that have dropped that have been able to collect the data and drop the trousers for Topgolf regarding how their business is going. We have the year-on-year revenue growth, and we can see that awful situation of how it seems to have fallen off the edge of a cliff from 2022 to current day. And that grey line there marks really where Callaway handed over the business to their new to the new investor and washed their hands literally of the Topgolf side, while still keeping a little bit of control of the operation. They didn't give all of their control away, and it's still unknown the exact situation of what's happening with the swing suite component of all of this. Even this late into the Callaway separation, I'm still having to do major research to just try and find out what's happening with the vast number of swing suites, and maybe we can buttonhole David at IALPA to get a clarity on that. But the numbers next door to this is the one that I'm really fascinated from, and I'd like to thank the guys at the Well, which is a kind of a Stinger Report light. Its main job is to collect data from the Texas cocktail and hospitality market and make that available to understand how various brands and chains are doing. Just for some of you that may not be aware, the Texas sector actually encourages operations to supply their receipts, their bills of goods and their financial holdings much more than other states. And so we have a level of transparency. I can tell you roughly how many cocktails a Dave & Buster's has sold within the Texas environment. I can tell you how many drinks that a Topgolf has been selling with some accuracy. And if you can see there at the slide that is being attacked by Microsoft there, that big blue line, it represents Topgolf beating all of their competition, beating the Putt Shack, beating the Dave & Buster's, beating some of the local competitive socializing venues in that area, even Flight Club that has opened up in Texas. And that's a surprise. That kind of tells you that maybe Topgolf's numbers, while seeing some serious impact, that impact could actually be more to do with the operational model rather than people actually putting their hand in their pocket to pay for drinks or to pay for food or to pay for hire. There's always that granular detail that you need when you look at numbers. The numbers on the left there, the green into the red, can look frightening and scary, but that blue line on the right kind of makes you think that there's a business here. It just needs to be heading in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've seen that I'll say there's two things going on here. First of all, I think Callaway really began to focus on building of new locations in order to drive the top line revenue versus focusing on really enhancing the operations and the attraction and the entertainment mix inside of the facilities in each facility. And so you begin to see that year-over-year growth decline as a result of the focus on new builds versus on really enhancing the guest experience. That being said, when you look at something like the alcohol and sales for as part of the entertainment component, this is something they really should lean into. We've talked about before that these venues are really overbuilt. They're overbuilt from both the number of golf bays that exist and then also the amount of just standalone F&B space, so dining tables, bar tops, etc., that just don't need to be there. People are there to either play golf and have drinks or maybe have a big round bar or something like that. And there's a lot that if they want to still build the big facilities, great. Build the top one as your main, put some private bays on the second floor, and then build lots of other entertainment mix on the bottom floor and part of the second floor, right? And then lean heavily into what they're already doing well, which is selling alcohol and selling other food to enhance their entertainment experience, but reduce the need to fill 70 bays on a 3-story building when there's another Topgolf just another 20 miles away especially when you're talking about a Texas location, right? So they're oversaturating the market with overbuilt venues, and they really need to begin to think about where are they strong, leaning into the alcohol sales, the F&B, leaning into the social component of the golfing experience, really enhancing that, and then bringing in other entertainment into the mix.
We assume, or we hope, that some of those hundreds of individuals that were laid off were in the duplication component. If you look at a design of a Topgolf and just count the number of bars, and then if you're as sad as me as an individual that visits a number of these venues more to see the experience being made rather than to experience the experience on many occasions, we see closed bars. Why is that bar closed? Oh, well, that bar's used only when we're full. How often is that bar used? Oh, not that often, mainly maybe on weekends. Well, wouldn't it be easy just to have the bars that you do have dedicated for the audience you have? Oh, well, not everybody wants to walk down to the bottom bar. Who laid it out like this? Well, this was what, the Topgolf management told us was the best way to lay this out. There's going to be some hard questions asked about, we have a winning concept, but we're losing money because we're operating it badly. It's like having a very expensive sports car and grinding the gears. At some point in time, you're going to blow the engine up. And that red on that graph on the left kind of tells us that those gears are grinding and the oil warning light has come on. Anyway, moving on, and changes and restructurings and investments continue. State of Play Hospitality may be a company that's not familiar to many of you, but they are the operators and developers behind the Bounce chain, behind the Hey Jingo chain, and behind the Flight Club chain. Now, to be honest, their Flight Club chain is the one that they lead with mostly because that's the successful components to their operation, and they get to turn around and tell us that they've been seeing a massive growth in their increase on their same store revenue. They've seen an 8% increase, 8.3, if we're going to be specific, across their operations, where our friends at Topgolf were actually seeing an 8.5% drop across their operation at one point in their quarters. Now we've seen an investment group putting money into State of Play. We're not told how much, but it is a considerable amount to help grow and roll out the operation. And I assume that operation they're going to be putting their greatest energy into is their Flight Club, because as I reported previously, we've gone from 3 bounces to now 1, holding on by its fingernails. And poor old High Jingo, the bingo live experience and cocktail concept, only opened 1 facility, and I'm led to believe that it hasn't had a lot of love as it failed to really launch. Maybe that new investment will allow both Bounce and High Jingo to receive a little bit more TLC and love and repositioning so they can take another bash at rolling out. But between you, me, and the gatepost, I think most of this investment money is going to be growing the incredibly large and popular Flight Club operation. I was just in a Flight Club in London by Oxford Street at 4 o'clock on a Wednesday, and it was packed. So their model is proving still strong. Remember, Fight Club was one of the early of the competitive socializing concepts that rolled out back over a decade ago.
Well, I like the level of experimentation that State of Play is putting out there. And what I appreciate is that they also you're not putting one and then saying, oh, we saw a little bit of success, let's roll out 10 of them. And so they, have obviously done that with Flight Club, but with High Jingo and with Bounce, these are 2 very different things. Bounce is definitely not at the level of accessibility when it comes to social entertainment. Ping pong can be fun if you both know how to play, or both are terrible. But if one is good and one isn't, or you have a couple in your group that are really good and the others are not, then ping pong begins to get a little bit frustrating for those that aren't. This is one of the things that has been beneficial for Flight Club, is that the gameplay that they've invented and created and overlaid at the top of their standard dartboards allows accessibility to happen. Hijingo is just a fun, engaging environment. The problem is it's really hard to reproduce because you have to, so much of it is built on the staff that you hire and the energy that they can create in the space, the way Hijingo has the high energy cocktail bar bingo, basically. So that is, I think if they do continue to expand those, it'll be fewer of them because they really have to focus on getting the guest experience correct and hiring the right people to fill those roles.
Guest experience. Flight Club's got it. It needs to keep relevant, though, because a lot of their competitors are now dropping in gamified darts. So that's something that they need to bear in mind. But I would also argue that Bounce's plan to try and pivot there or address their fall off in sales and players was to have their projection mapped ping pong table, which was an awful application of projection mapping for a game. It didn't work. They lost their way, and sadly, the red-headed stepchild has been pushed to a corner. Hijingo, I really think that they need to look at automation because there's a concept there. We've talked about how bingo is those rave bingo environments are very similar to Hijingo. It's just that they don't have the same type of overhead. But we'll be hearing a lot more about these brands and even maybe possibly a new secret concept that the State of Play guys may be sitting on to help increase their position in the market. Very quickly, I haven't been yet. I keep on. I'm now going to have to go for a third visit to the crucible of new competitive socializing openings in London. But Market Hall is a hospitality, food, bar, and dining operation that creates unique spaces where they have multiple food offerings. I call them box park for food, but it is taking a large space and giving you a wide selection of different bars and different eateries to select from, all under one roof. And they have been toying with a concept called Games Hall, which adds a competitive socializing element to that mix. They have now said that their first test facility in Leicester Square has proven itself successful, and they're now going to roll this out across their other chains. They have a venue in Canary Wharf, which is going to receive this gamification, and I'm led to believe that others of their sites are going to get this. A kind of yet another company in the hospitality sector now embracing competitive gaming.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I mean, they've definitely brought in some other third-party vendors for their games, and so it'll be interesting to see how they are, how successful they are. The thing is, they've already brought the audience, they've already brought the guests there for the food, right? They're a food hall, so why not layer in a social component and and then increase revenue while they're already there for food? Book a bay.
This is a conversation we're having with a lot of hospitality operations. You already have an audience who are turning on their heels after they've had their first drink, trying to achieve that repeat visitation and that dwell time. You're going to need something more than cheap food or cheap drink. And gamification, competitive socializing, even amusement are elements that these guys are grudgingly looking at now. Most of them want to create their own concepts, so they feel that they can own it. And a lot of them are also out of their depth when it comes to understanding what is needed from competitive socializing. But hey, I need to get in front of their experience, and I'll make sure in my next visit to visit their latest installation. We told you so. We raised an eyebrow at the time when Gravity Arcade appeared in Blue Water in the UK. We were surprised at what could be achieved with the 7,000 square foot retail unit that had been turned into a near on staffless arcade environment that was working off of a card swipe system and very little staffing and incredibly very thin themality. The most themality was the use of the phrase Gravity Arcade and a little bit of paint on the walls. This was a relationship between Funbox, who is one of the companies that is retained by Sega Amusement International, who worked directly with Gravity on the Gravity Max arcade hall. So these guys knew their stuff about amusement. It was just, it felt too much like they were hoping that they could just drop a couple of amusement machines in and recapture lightning in a bottle. Well, surprise, surprise, after under years operation and the venue's closing down, and like all orphans, no one wants to take responsibility for it. The team at the Blue Water claim it was always going to be a temporary site, even though they had to print up on the windows of the facility how to redeem all of your points and who to call about all the parties that were going to be booked and utilizing the space. And of course, the guys at Gravity didn't want to return any emails. So a lesson learned. How this reflects on the other instant mall arcade operations that some companies have been rolling out recently. I think this is the beginning of a come to Jesus moment for these venue operators.
Yeah, I mean, we don't like to say "I told you so," right? I mean,
we don't like to see this. We want to work with everybody. We want to see this grow. But if you make fundamental, if you put rotten eggs in the omelet, what do you want us to do? Not comment about how bad the omelet tastes? No, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
If you want smoke blown up your fundaments, then there are other places you can go.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's unfortunate to see this, but not a surprise. And hopefully the Gravity brand in general, I'm sure they will take away some key learnings from this, and help to. Hopefully that'll help enhance some of the remaining Gravity the Gravity brands. And again, I say the Gravity brands because this is one of the difficulties I've had with the Gravity brand in general, is that there are so many different ones that fall under the same general name with just little appendages to the Gravity Max, Gravity Arcade, Gravity, et cetera, et cetera. Social, and even there's some of their sports venues or active play, right? And so, it's a little bit, sometimes a little bit confusing on that front.
Well, there's one less now. We will all now be turning our gaze to how Gravity Social is doing. As my parents beat into me, there's no such thing as a mistake. It's just an opportunity to learn if you're prepared to learn. And I know some executives get very brittle when something doesn't go the way they want it, and they would rather brush it under the carpet than admit and learn from that. I know the guys at Funbox, and I know that they will be taking lessons away from this, though I also know that they are working very hard on expanding their own arcade concept with their urban fun projects. But we hope those individuals that were impacted by the Gravity Arcade closures will just be sucked into the Gravity Active business, because there's a Gravity Active just up a couple of units away from them in this particular mall, which may have another reason to explain why this facility didn't succeed. But anyway, talking about openings planned, and my transmedia hat goes firmly on as we talk about confirmation that American Dreams Mall will be getting the first of the Five Nights at Freddy facilities, or this is a pizzeria stroke immersive experience stroke entertainment facility. This is very much to me a mini Netflix house kind of approach, but based on the IP of Five Nights at Freddy. It's a popular video game IP. It was a very popular movie release. It did good numbers compared to how much the IP was known outside. It has also been turned into pop-up experiences. We've had our friends at Universal actually create a pop-up pizzeria based upon the Five Nights at Freddy properties. So we know that the audience is out there. How well they will be able to engage with this particular kind of entertainment operation under one roof as a permanent installation, mixing entertainment, attraction, and guest dining, we're looking forward to seeing, which will open in 2027. Also bear in mind that though it may not fit into this space, we have seen the theme park industry embrace Five Nights at Freddy with our friends at Sally, who actually created a dark ride based on Five Nights at Freddy with animatronics that went into Circus in Las Vegas. So we know it's an IP that has legs. It's just, will this legs of the animatronics walk in and scare the bejesus out of the audience enough for that repeat visitation model?
So this is one of these where the IP can both help, but also can hurt you. So my concern here with the Freddy Fazbear's experience is that it's not going to open until 2027. We don't know when exactly in 2027. You know, you can say that it could be December, right? So a year and a half from now almost. And unless there's going to be a Five Nights at Freddy's 3 coming out that we don't know about, you're now 3 years off from the second, from the sequel, 4 or 5 years off from the original. Yeah. And obviously that's a video game as well. It's not just the movies. But you are, if you're leaning into this type of IP, you really want to make sure it's long lasting IP before you see heavy investment, especially in a permanent location inside of an American Dream, which is not going to be insignificant real estate to pay for.
It is going to be very expensive real estate, and if they can get it to work here, they'll be able to get it to work anywhere.
Yeah. One quick note, and obviously this is meant to look like Showbiz Pizza, but this is very much very reminiscent of Showbiz Pizza's logo, the Freddy Fazbear logo, and obviously they're meant to be very similar to each other. This was a precursor to Chuck E. Cheese. But anyway, just thought that was a funny, really, logo connection to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza to, Showbiz
Very
Pizza.
Quickly, if you're not familiar with the Five Nights at Freddy, it's a game which is, kind of playing shadows where you have to keep a torch moving around, and these demonic animatronics that have come to life in this Chuck E. Cheese facility, you have to protect yourselves about. That was the original premise. The game developers learned the lesson very early on that they shouldn't be linking themselves to Chuck E. Cheese or Pizza Theater anytime soon, and so they created this mythical environment, which has been very popularly recreated in the video game and in the movie, as well as the pop-up attractions I was mentioning earlier. You're quite right. The IP that you're using needs to have legs, and sometimes it's easy to pick one that has legs. Making a Minecraft facility, it's a safe bet that you're going to be able to still be able to attract an audience, as Minecraft's not going to go anywhere for the foreseeable future. Same with Mario, same with others. And also there's the danger that all it takes is one really bad stinker of a movie within that 3 years while you're getting this concept together that can pull all of your house of wax down. We will wait and see to see what this venue's like and how much level of immersion that they achieve. Moving on, investment. Our friends at Slick City Franchise, the franchising group that rolls out all of the Slick Cities dotting North America at the moment, has received a major investment from Endeavor, a company known for putting their money into competitive socializing, location-based entertainment, hospitality chains. Again, we weren't told how much money is going in, but it's a significant investment, even though they're taking a minority stake. And that level of investment also means that we're going to see members of Endeavor on the board at Slick Cities helping steer that process.
Indeed.
Sometimes your competition are the people you least expect. A very interesting report from Burger King about how well they're doing and the success that they've seen over McDonald's. Again, an interesting number, 8.5% increase in their sales operation. Very interesting from the company. They were crowing how much they have overtaken the McDonald's of this world. And when the CEO was questioned about that, he pointed to their focus on the family, that they have now made their facilities, and remember, they have over 4,000 Burger King stores out there in the US, that they're now putting in much more family-friendly seating, pricing of models, trying to attract the children, and a throwaway statement, we're putting a lot more entertainment in our stores. That is interesting to see, Dave. A company like Burger King positioning themselves a little bit like a main event, I would argue. If they put any more entertainment in their facilities, then our friends at Chuck E. Cheese will feel a little bit pressured. Be concerned that some of the existing bricks and mortar fast food operators are watching what's happening in the market. And if we're not prepared to improve our game, they've got the deep pockets and the facilities to improve theirs.
Indeed, especially if you've been operating a location in or near one of these facilities for a number of years, the things that they're putting in are going to be modern. They're going to be updated, new materials, new approaches, etc. And so you now have brand new competition in an area where you thought you had it fully locked up. So definitely something to be aware of.
Yeah, I was surprised about the level of entertainment that they're dropping in. The picture that I have in this particular slide is of a very brand new activity space, a crawling environment that wouldn't look out of place at a Chuck E. Cheese, and surprise, surprise, is manufactured by a company that has worked in the attractions and entertainment market. There is the Taurus of Pain for you pain followers, and you can see the splits a little bit interesting this week, mainly because we have very large players dropping in, as well as the hospitality side. To see Burger King added to the Taurus of Pain in a similar position to where McDonald's used to position itself when they had quite a heavy active entertainment market sharehold is telling.
All right. Well, coming up after the break, we will continue on with the trends. Every birthday you miss is a party booked somewhere else. If you run a trampoline park, family entertainment center, play cafe, or party venue, Party Ping connects to your booking system and automatically sends a text to parents with a personalized birthday message, along with a custom gift for the kid, at just the right time when they're deciding where to celebrate. Venues using Party Ping see 20% more party bookings. More parties, zero extra work. Check them out at partyping.ai. That's partyping.ai.
And so we jump into the tech and IP, and we have quite a slew of those to look at. And regarding the tech, this sent shivers up my back, but I was thinking more from an operation point of view rather than it not being an interesting idea. A French karting facility has installed, for the first time in our industry's history, electric mini motorcycles. So you can hire one of these mini electric motorcycles and go racing around the course of this indoor track. Hey, sounds fun. That waiver's going to be a yeah. The crash and tumbles of bike riding compared to kart racing are totally different, and I think that this is an interesting concept using brand new technology. The electric karting business has been doing great guns, and it was obvious that we would see the electric bike industry take off. That these are brand new mini electric bikes kind of shows us some of the technology that we were looking at when we were at the Chinese show at the beginning of the year. But on an operational model, I will hold my powder dry and wait to see how well this does with their audience and how many bruises, bumps, and headaches ensue, or if this is just a smooth operation and a natural progression for this technology.
Oh, all right. Well, I'm sure we will be talking about these, the KDC again.
We will keep an eye on this, especially if this particular offer removes itself from their webpage one night quietly. Yeah. Staying with the karting side, and one of the largest indoor, or the world's largest indoor karting tracks, as I'm led to believe, our friends at Supercharge Entertainment, which we reported on when they broke ground, and then when they opened their facility, they've just turned around and said that they've entered into a partnership with Time Mission. to add escape rooms, or so let's call them mission room attraction to their facility. So this is really, we have the space to put in a full-size time mission venue in our space, and we're going to include that in the mix of entertainment. Fantastic. Great partnership. I'm looking forward to seeing how well it does. But my raised eyebrow at the time of when our friends at Supercharge rolled out about did they have enough correct mix of entertainment to keep their audience happy kind of has been vindicated by them suddenly finding some free space to drop in a time mission.
Yeah, absolutely. And this will likely not be the only other thing we see added to the supercharged entertainment. That being said, it really is a good mix. Time Mission got their start at R1 indoor karting in Rhode Island. And so they were in a large karting facility. They also had some other social components, social games, etc. And that's where Time Mission really got a chance to cut its teeth and figure out its own mix and its own guest experience. And so it makes a lot of sense to see Time Mission drop into a supercharged entertainment, another karting facility. The two can really go hand in hand.
If you guys don't like the term mule mixed-use leisure entertainment, then we will try multi-activity entertainment. We'll try anything to get you to understand that single point entertainment in this current market with this current audience is a waste of your time and energy and doesn't generate or pay the bills or warrant the staffing. Just think of the number of staff you need in running the world's largest indoor karting. If you're not making use of the space you have to maybe include a VR arena, to include a mission room, to include karaoke, to think about a proper bar, if you're not thinking about these things, you're leaving more than just cheddar on the table. You're leaving the whole bank. And that whole bank and leaving cheddar on the table kind of brings us to some more data that's been made available to us, so we say. We've had the trousers dropped a little bit on the pricing model that is going to be going into the upscale or the reinvestment into the F1 arcade facility in Las Vegas. They have changed their pricing model. They have also started to offer special deals to encourage retention of simulators. So when you pay for these deals, we have the fast lane at 59, we have the podium pursuit at 70, and then we have the VIP hire at about $200 ago. These aren't cheap prices, but they're trying to appeal to an audience that is not turning up at their venue currently. And you will have noticed in a previous sound off that we mentioned the replacement of the GM at the Las Vegas facility, and it looks like the new incumbent has started running with trying to encourage an audience back to their facilities and lock them into special deals. I'm also noticing from those prices and the packages on offer that they're really pushing to try and get people to try the simulators rather than just the food and the cocktails.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I find what is interesting here, let's just take the middle one, the podium pursuit, because it's the easiest one to do some math on. You've got a shared plate at 24 that's included at a $75 price point. You've got 2 draft beers, let's call each one, or glasses of wine, let's call each one $12, which is probably underpriced for Vegas. But let's call it $12. So that's another $24, which then basically puts this the racing itself at less than $30 for a 5-race series per person.
25.
So, right, exactly. So they are really heavily discounting their racing and really driving that food and beverage, obviously, or retaining their margin anyway on the food and beverage, and just knowing that they're going to also add a little bit of racing to try to fill up some of the space, frankly, in that Las Vegas location.
They're going to have to think about clustering their simulators around tables to encourage food and dining. They're going to have to start thinking about a better drinks model for those that are racing. They're going to really have to think about entertainment. And for a GM to try and right the ship of state here, usually you're righting a ship because it was on an even keel and it has fallen off even keel. Remember, this F1 arcade is wet between the ears in Las Vegas. It's brand spanking new. There isn't any foundation to base these numbers on. They are literally whistling in the wind. regarding whether this will work. And if these numbers don't attract an audience, then what are they going to do? Play with the numbers some more? There's only so many times you can do this. This is an interesting line in the sand regarding a very prominent F1 arcade. Moving on, and we've had some developments in Japan. We've got the creation of a new trade association. LBEC is the location-based entertainment consortium. I always like the word consortium. 25 of the leading LBE XR developers out there have gathered themselves together under one umbrella, and they're working very hard to build their business. Very similar to what we've seen done in North America with Lecturer, the Bob Cooney Association, very similar to what we've seen with the AAMA VR group, which is just trying to offer support and help to both developers and operators create the best practice approach and just generally build your business from a foundation of strength as a group rather than individual chaos and confusion. An interesting thing, they turned around and they've set themselves a goal, which is always, for a consortium, it's always an interesting thing to do. 2030, they want to see the LBE XR market for their membership to be about 95 million in value. Again, they didn't give us a number of what it's valued at the moment. I would say it's in the 30s at the moment from a Japanese perspective, 30 million revenue generation. So this is quite an ambitious target to set themselves.
Yeah, we'll see. I appreciate that there's a group there that is there to try to support these vendors. The question is whether or not XR is the way to hang their hat. Where to hang their hat, basically. I think that is to be determined.
Yeah, we have a couple of companies. Style is one of those group that we had as a speaker at the LBE XR zone at AWE. I've got all these alphabets too. And they made it clear that they want to push this, and they're more in the mixed reality side than in the virtual reality side. So it is a gathering of companies that really need to prove that this technology can generate the revenue that we need to achieve to warrant a consortium. And one of those members, Dynamo Amusement, of course, is owned by our friends at Gender, and they've just announced that they, at their equivalent of a Sandbox VR facility that they run in Tokyo, that they've come up with a brand new kind of light horror VR game experience, which is what I would call a virtual adventure. It's not just a group of 4 or 6 or 8 players at a time, but it's a game experience that can actually handle 20 individuals. So it's showing a broadening of content available on their VR experience. Moving on and talking of Sandbox VR, and we have reached an important milestone. If you jump back if you jump back to the last Open and Shut, which was done out of sync with this particular sound off, we charted that the operation Sandbox VR had achieved 90 facilities open now. They went over that limit, and they've got 91 now open. It was interesting to see that their 91st facility in Florida saw the return of Sammy, the robot bartender, has now been added to this site, which not all, I can count on one hand the number of Sandbox facilities that actually have the robot, if I only had 3 fingers. The issue I have here is that we are at 90, heading very quickly to that magic 100 facilities, which the operation is heading towards, but we still don't have that granular detail of how well the dwell is doing, how well the return of the guests is doing, which of their 10 game experiences they make available are the strongest, and is the encouraging of Sammy's return He's not cheap, that robot, both in the drinks that he has to be loaded with, as well as the robotic arms that are used on this system. Is a franchisee now being encouraged to have hospitality as a component of the Sandbox VR model going forward?
Well, I certainly hope that the franchisees are encouraged to add some sort of F&B, but I still don't know that this is the right path forward for adding that F&B. It's it's a nice gimmick, but it takes a long time to get a drink. It's one at a time. And look, you have a bartender, it's still one at a time too, but a bartender can crank out a drink a lot faster than you can using Sammy the robot here. But anyway, putting that aside, I think the thing that frustrates me the most, and it's got to be frustrating as a franchisee, especially if you've invested in this F&B, and you call it out here in the text, was the fact that on the website, there's nothing that talks about the beverage aspect and that robot on the website for this particular location.
Yes.
That's because the franchise owns the website structure, and Miami is just one of many pages on a single website. And that Miami page does not showcase this at all. And this is one of the biggest issues I have with large multi-location brands, both in franchise and corporate, where when you have a variety of both numbers of bays, your mix of games, your F&B mix, if that isn't
for the manager,
out, then it's an issue.
It is that cookie cutter. Sadly, when they get to a certain size, and it's sometimes only 4 or 5, when a corporate franchise rollout starts, every site looks the same because it's a cookie cutter. They don't want to specify any detail, and I am equally as mad by this loss of humanity from this. It would be nice to know that the Miami, Florida facility compared to one of the other Florida facilities has the robot, because I may want to be going with a group of friends that would love a cocktail. And there are other robots out there, unless our friends at Sandbox VR has signed some special arrangement with this particular cocktail robot system, which funny enough is owned by, or has investment made in it from Microsoft, if my memory serves me right. I hope it hasn't done an update recently. Either way, Sandbox is really going to have to think about making sure that the audience knows the differences of these venues and gives it a little bit more of a personal experience. But hey, we're nearly up to 100 sites, and we know what's going to happen when they get to 100 facilities. Well, some of us do. I'm not sure if we're allowed to talk about it yet. Moving on, and another VR experience, aiming more at a hospitality experience with a strong audience appeal. Myra Immersive they had their first flagship facility that they rolled out some time ago, 2024, and then they got into an agreement or a deal to franchise their operation with a cinema chain in China, part of the Jackie Chan cinema chain, and they were celebrating recently that they've rolled out now their 6th facility. They have now 7 facilities. They also, I was speaking to their founder and CEO, and he was sharing with me how much TikTok can make a difference. They had one of their patrons at the facility take a TikTok that's already reached about 3.9 million views. So the social media craze has exploded on them. They've gone viral. As we saw with what happened with Valo Motion, it's now happening with the Myra Arenas in Asia. And this is cinetainment. This is the ability to have an audience along with watching a film, but come in and have a drink and a meal while watching people making fools of themselves in VR and getting encouraged to take part themselves, increasing that dwell time, increasing that repeat visitation. I'm sounding like a broken record.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly what we talked about at the top of the show. This is spectatorship writ large, actually. And so it is not surprising to see them continue to expand, but it does also still require the right kind of staffing and the right space to accommodate a Mirror Arena and to deliver the guest experience properly.
I would argue that it would maybe easier to do this in China than it would be in North America until you've worked out the model. Myra Immersive has also signed up a deal with our friends in Australia, CHE, and I know that they're looking very heavily at the cinetainment side of the model there. So again, this could be one of those products that really works well in the cinetainment transfusion period. What I mean is the cinema market working out that they have to offer a lot more than just expensive popcorn. Moving on, and we will be touching upon this a little later on in our talking point, but just, our friends at Ripley's have been pulled through the ringer regarding their support of XR technology. They were one of those companies that had doubled down on versus augmented reality holographic experience, and sadly when that fell through, they were kind of left in the lurch holding the baby. But they've dusted themselves off and they've reinvested in having augmented reality, or I would argue mixed reality, but let's not pick hairs. They have done a deal with A Station. Some of you will remember our report about A Station from IALPA last year, the company using the Apple Vision Pros to create a augmented mixed reality experience where you could either be scared by ancient Chinese warriors or be wowed by dinosaurs. It would seem that A Station experience has been dropped in lock, stock and proverbial barrel with minimal changes, and this is the first Western installation of this attraction, and we are all watching with very close eyes how the first Western installation of Apple Vision Pros as a location-based entertainment system goes.
Indeed. Well, one of the things I like about the Ripley's Entertainment Group is that they like to experiment with new technologies. They like to experiment with new attractions, and they build a lot of their own stuff internally as well and put it into their facilities. But they also are very careful and watch the data closely. And if they see that something doesn't work, they pull it out. And so will be interesting to see how A Station performs here and whether or not we see further rollout or a removal.
We'll be watching this incredibly closely regarding its application. I noticed when we ran this on our social media feed, there was a lot of raised eyebrows from Apple regarding what we were calling the first installation in the West of Apple Vision Pros in entertainment. So again, these are all the metrics that I'm sure the Ripley team are watching very closely towards their decision. And if this goes well and we start seeing these things popping up in other Ripley localities, then hold my beer, this is going to be a really interesting acceleration. They are not the only, A Station is not the only augmented reality game in town, and we will see a number of new additions to that mix at the IALPA show in London as well as in Orlando. I'm already speaking to some new entrants into the market. Continuing on, and I was lucky enough to sit in on a online seminar that our friends at Zero Latency put together, and I would like to thank Tim, the founder of the company, and his team to share what they call the largest consumer study regarding LBE VR. Looking at the landscape, speaking to over 2,000 real human beings, getting them to fill out a survey, visiting them more than once to ensure that the data is accurate, and just getting them to be honest about their interests, how they're selecting going to location-based entertainment facilities, what makes them pick a VR experience over karting or whatever experience. If you're interested in this survey, there's a QR code on screen now that will send you to that report. And I would like to thank the guys at Zero Latency for allowing us to share that information. This is valuable. They made it very clear that these weren't zero latency employees or operators filling out the survey. These were real human beings, and it was an independent company that filled out the survey report. We go into a little bit more detail about this in the Stinger report, but fundamentally the things that I took away from this that really interested me was the move to AI search tools now to find facilities near you and for entertainment. So while they're still using the TripAdvisors and the Google Maps, an AI search tool is being used more and more to make those decisions. So if your facility operation isn't AI proof in being picked up as a search analytic, then you're missing out. We were interested to see the growth in families, a family that stays together, plays together, really. These groups are going out, and if they can go and play together in a multi-experience, so if you have 8 in your family group and you can go to a simulator experience or an attraction or something that can accommodate 8 players or more, then that is a draw. And one of the other things that I was interested about, which we touched upon just a couple of seconds ago when talking about Sandbox VR, is that they only show 10 game experiences available at their facility usually. In some facilities, they'll even show less than that. They'll only have 6 of their core games promoted to you. You can play their other games, but you have to specially ask for that. And the phrase that was being used by Zero Latency was something called title fatigue. Just because you have 20 titles doesn't mean people want to scroll through 20 titles. And they're being very specific now on what games they're pushing front to the audiences that are coming to the facility, which means that you need to have dynamic game selection based on audience retention. These are pieces of audience gathering that you can't depend on the gut of the general manager. You have to start using specialist tools to make these decisions on your parties coming to your facilities.
Yeah, this is a great report that they put together. And what I really appreciate is that they shared it out to the industry as a whole. This is something, especially the title fatigue, is one that Sandbox VR, for example, could learn from. But this is, this is great insight, and really glad that they shared that. And that you were able to be a part of this, the release and the announcement of it.
We want to share this information as much as possible. Where associations, consortiums, and federations are fantastic things, getting the information out to people that are members as well as non-members is essential. It's one of the reasons why we try not to have the Stinger report behind a paywall. We want the information out there because we want everyone to grow. Moving on, and some operations in the fast food business have special Hawaiian vacations for their franchisees. You have to stroke those egos, you have to keep them happy and coming back for more. That said, if you're going to get all of your franchisees together, doing it in Hawaii is quite nice. And Jack in the Box run a very friendly ship. I think they've won a number of times as best franchise operator internationally. They hold an event every year where they get the leading franchisees together for a convention. And this year, they actually invited our friends at Immersive Gamebox to present their interactive entertainment system. Now, you're asking me, a burger facility, why do they want to have an entertainment? Well, I throw you back to what I was saying about Burger King. And the phrase that was used by the executives during the week of the Jack in the Box franchise conference was that all of their franchisees should start to be looking at diversification, not as just something that's nice to have, but something that is a strategic priority. That is the biggest, subtlest hint to, hey, have you thought of putting entertainment in your facilities to increase your margin? So where our friends at Burger King are thinking about putting jungle gyms and more family-friendly entertainment, our friends at Jack in the Box invite an immersive entertainment platform to their event. Join the dots, guys.
Yeah, this is a very interesting trend to start to see QSR begin to bring in what has historically been a key part of, FEC, LBE. And so, if you've considered putting an immersive game box in your facility, or 2 or 3, and you're near a Jack in the Box, now, you have to start considering what is that actual mix that you put in your facility that differentiates you enough from the potential just pure gameplay they can access at Jack in the Box or other QSRs like theirs.
I want to make it clear they were invited as a guest, and
Correct.
It wasn't 100%. The management team at Jack in the Box didn't say every facility is going to have one of these in. But if you invite someone to one of your retreats, then that usually kind of indicates that you're thinking down a path. I have only ever seen the fast food industry look at adding entertainment when back in the day when Chuck E. Cheese was really making the numbers, as well as back in the day with the arcade, the golden era of arcade business. A number of venues started to drop the occasional pinball and arcade machine at the back of sites for customer dwell. Are we going to start reliving that with immersive entertainment? Whoa, it's going to be a fun ride if that's what's going to happen next. Diversification, people. Moving to our friends at Merlin Entertainments, IP, as I keep on going on, they've just rolled out across 6 of their facilities the inclusion of the Jumanji 4D experience. So that's basing it on the Jumanji film universe, creating a 4D theater experience, an attraction that can gather an audience, a theater attraction. We've been here before with 4D theaters being dropped in to venues as people consumers to increase the entertainment offering. I'm interested about the number of companies that have purchased the Jumanji license. It really puts a lot of pressure on that new Jumanji film that's coming out in a matter of weeks' time. Internationally, that film's got to perform to ensure that investment on creating 4D theaters, or as our friends at Triotech have done, creating an amusement ride based upon the Jumanji property, is paid off correctly.
Yeah.
Staying with Merlin Entertainment, we've had a little bit of information dropped from the Shanghai Legoland. Both of us were impressed with the venue when we saw it. We were very FOMO that we couldn't get out to the opening, and FOMO not to get around it. Well, it would seem that 2 million guests also agreed with us and have populated. So a year in, they have had 2 million guests go through this brand new Legoland Shanghai facility. Congratulations to the team. Congratulations to Lego. Congratulations to Merlin. You can kind of understand why Merlin held on to the Legoland resort business when they divested themselves of the Legoland Discovery side of the business.
Yeah, exactly. Which, look, to be like, Merlin has done historically, much better operations at the larger parks than they have their smaller parks. And so it wasn't surprising that both Merlin wanted to divest themselves of Lego Discovery, and also that Lego wanted to get greater, deeper control and their foot in the LBE door.
Yeah, we'll be hearing a lot more about that next year, of what Lego's plans are regarding the positioning of their brand as transmedia continues to grow. Talking of transmedia and our friends at Sega Japan, they have now established the Sega Universe, which is their pop-up store operation now. Some places it's called Sega Store, some places it's called Sega Universe. I think Sega Universe is going to be the brand name that they're going to roll all of the venues under. They're going to be less pop-up and more permanent. And to mark that, they've just announced the formation of Sega Universe pop-up stores in China. And we know that this is now a major part of the corporation's positioning to get their IP out into the merch, branding, and licensing side. And that can be seen by a big announcement that was made by our friends at Little Lion Entertainment. The company famous for their Crystal Maze operation, and also for their projection mat karting and Puckman experience. Well, it looks like Puckman live experience is going to soon be joined by another famous video game mascot. We can't say too much more other than Little Lion has signed with Sega, a strategic partnership, and that they are working on a experience that will be based around a very popular mascot that's blue and spiky. Details, of course, are very embryonic at the moment. Whether this will be available for announcement with the opening next month of the Arcade Arena London, we're not sure. But for Little Lion to feel that this teaser video could be popped up on their page at this point kind of tells us that we're close to a major announcement.
This is the big deal. Big fan of what Little Lion has been doing, and so very excited to see what they do with the Sonic the Hedgehog brand.
I'm still waiting to find out what the reaction has been to their Puckman live experience, to see if it has been as popular as their karting experience, or as they're soon to release their shooting, their laser tag style immersive experience. To have a suite of strong IP at this level tells you a lot. You know, Sega Japan would not get involved in this if they didn't feel that this was very strong. But this is also going to prove very chaotic for me to report about this, because people will be making the mistake of linking Sega Amusement International with Sega Corporation Japan. But hey, that's a me problem, so I'll just have to suck it up and deal with it. Again, as soon as we have more details, we'll share it here. Just a very quick thing here I wanted to make others aware of. I just came across the Sunrise 2027 report. This is run by GS1, the operation that handles barcodes. Barcodes are the stock item and sale item units at the back of every product that is sold. Pick up a can of Coke, anything, there is a barcode at the back of it. And now the industry has started a Sunrise program where they're migrating from the 1D barcodes, which was started in the 1970s as a means for stock keeping and product retention. They're now migrating over to the 2D QR barcodes, specially curated for the sector. And to show you a little bit more about it, all of the stock item products now are including both a QR code, and the normal standard barcode. If you are not aware of what's going to be happening with this, and especially if you have products that you are producing for your facilities that are going to have a shelf life longer than the next few months, then I really would point you to being aware of what's going to be happening. And if you need information, we can pop up a link to the Sunrise report. Anyway, to the talking points. We've been hinting about doing this for some time, and we need to address the elephant in the room, which is how AI is shaping our business and how it is both a boon and a burden that we need to be aware of. I know everybody goes on about AI, you can go on expensive courses and stuff like that, but many are experimenting with AI, both on the graphics side and creating their websites, creating their logos, collecting research information. And there are some pitfalls as well as benefits that we need to talk about. Obviously, the big one at the moment is just how the AI search tools and the smart large language model applications are running amok at the moment. We had the shock horror story of Meta's testing one of their AI apps and it breaking out like some gaijin, some pteranodon or King Kong, and then goes off and breaks someone else's company's web page and breaks into their sites. We then had that surprise mea culpa by Meta apologizing for this, and even the surprise essay from Mark Zuckerberg, which I felt was more damage limitation than really a heartfelt comment about how we all need to get together and hug each other and embrace the latest AI technology. I can understand that if you bet so much of your company's net worth on the success of AI and one of your tools goes amok, then you may be a little concerned. You may also be a little bit more concerned when you've betted billions on the success of smart glasses, only to suddenly see them being banned from venues all around the world. So we're soon to have announcements from the theme park industry on their positioning on AI smart glasses. We have retailers, courtrooms, and now whole countries looking at banning or restricting the usage of these glasses. Germany is just about to make an announcement about their policy on this. This is a concern, especially as some companies were hoping that AI smart glasses were going to be a fantastic tool to help navigate around entertainment facilities and draw audiences to your sites. That's two-headed monster really here. On one side it was a great opportunity, on the other side the invasion of privacy has proven too much for the target audience to bear. I personally feel we're due for another Google glass hole moment, but you know me, I'm a glass half empty kind of guy when it comes to this type of technology.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say just real quickly here, the backlash to the glasses with cameras is, not surprising, frankly.
Not surprising.
And so this was definitely, look, we experimented, we put some cameras on glasses. Okay, great. So this is not the use case for AI or augmented glasses. So let's figure out what that killer app use case is, because I still have yet to see one.
Is that killer application, the killer app that we were waiting to see? When you start to see the industry luminaries, pundits, and influencers trying to change the subject, when you ask where that killer app is, you kind of know that this boondoggle's getting close to running out of steam. It all depends, I think, next month on what Meta pulls out of their derriere regarding what their brand new AI glasses can actually achieve to wow the audience that aren't just sycophantic fanboys. But again, let's talk about the direct impact for our industry rather than looking at the consumer side. And we have seen the explosion of the use of AI art to help certain facilities create their logos, their branding, their web pages, their promotion material. Guys, if you cannot, I'm not going to point out these companies' names, I'm just including their logos. If you can't see the danger of using AI to create your brand identity, then I've got a bridge in New York to sell you.
Yeah, I mean, this was really interesting. I started to notice some of the logos. They all looked very similar. They've all got that like bubbly edged font and the gradients. And anyway, there's a very unique style that AI can have if not directed properly. And it isn't to say that they shouldn't be using AI to help augment their marketing. It's when you let AI do it and then without giving it the proper human guidance and touch and making sure that it's aligned with ultimately both your experience you're going to deliver and the brand you want to maintain over a long period of time. And I think that's where the AI slop logos and slop marketing really can hurt your brand, because you're not taken seriously. If people know that you just went on AI and created that logo in 2 minutes, and whatever it spit out in the first draft, you kept and moved on.
And before Bob's Arcade, it isn't up there, I'm making this up, but before Bob's Arcade complains to me and says that it was cheap and he hasn't got a lot of money and he couldn't afford an artist, now that he's going to have to run away and go and recreate a brand new logo because he's noticed that all the other logos and his look really bad, he's now wasted money rather than saved any money. You've got to understand what you're doing. You can't make it up. And that applies not just to branding your facility, it also applies to selling your product. I understand why some companies want to improve the image of their product that they're trying to sell by using a little bit of AI polish, but you've really got to be mindful of how much this is going to age poorly and how much AI slop is being avoided by an audience out there, where you may be alienating your product away from a really good product. I'm sorry, Triotech, I don't feel that marketing for the new Typhoon system works as AI slop. I really don't. Prove me wrong, please.
Yeah. Well, and having kids that are Gen Z, myself personally, they look at this stuff and they roll their eyes and they think that this is, they're like, "Whoa, gosh, here's some more slop. I'm not even going to look at it," because you can identify it immediately, right? They turn off. And that's exactly the opposite of what you want your marketing to do.
And, don't come to me and say we're aiming at an older audience and all of that stuff. Please be mindful that an art rendered picture, even real imagery, is much more impactful. There are skills in marketing that need to be bore in mind. They're not just made up because it's an easy thing to do. Marketing directors actually know their stuff in many cases. And I'm not going to leave out DOF Robotics, who also use a little bit of AI enhancement. And, guys, when you're doing a layout for a piece of art of a product that you're trying to sell, count the number of heads before you accept the AI slop.
Bad. It's bad.
And then we have the problem of media creation and information. And I'm sure people are shouting at their screens. Well, I would expect you to say that as a writer and a researcher. You would kind of want to block out the AI search tools. Not all of us can afford to pay for a writer or a researcher. Well, guys, not being able to just cover those minimal expenses can bite you in the bum in the long run. I give you Exhibit A, AI search tool, collected information from various of us that have pushed up information. I can track where a large language model gets its information from. It is possible. I'm not going to tell you how. And that large language machine, when prompted, said, put together a news story based upon the information that has been taken from various press releases and social media feeds. And it did. And it told us that A Station and Ripley's, the aquarium company, had put together a augmented reality, or in this case, mixed reality experience. It was right about A Station. It was right about Ripley's. It was wrong about the application of how this mixed reality or AR was going to be used. It wasn't going to be looking at fish. It was going to be used in an outdoor exhibit looking at dinosaurs. It was wrong about the opening date. It was wrong. But most people don't get down to the second paragraph, according to the people that are pushing slop like this. And so it doesn't matter that a few mistakes slipped in. Match that with slop where picture recreation, and suddenly the AI research looks a little bit weak. Garbage in, garbage out. I'm not here to attack the media service that had to depend on AI to create its news feed. I wish that it had the pockets to be able to hire researchers, but I am very concerned that the more people depend on this kind of garbage to compile their business plans, the more failures we're going to be coming across of making such schoolboy errors.
Especially given the fact that this media service is one that people who are interested in XR, VR, MR, AR, etc., look at very closely. And this is the very thing you don't want to have happen.
No. As someone that's been doing this for over 30 years, the compiling of news and information is essential for circulation. Feeling that you can cut corners on this, okay. Feeling that you can cut corners to the quick makes me concerned about the value that you're getting if you're paying very high prices for this type of information. And let me introduce you to Exhibit B. Hey, Kevin, said one of our soon-to-be clients, I have to apologize to you. I raised an eyebrow. The apology was for thinking that they could get away with not using proper research. They literally wanted to find out something about a particular product and situation. They would normally have gone to us and asked us to do a little bit of background research into that and compile, but they thought that they could do it themselves because their kids had been telling them how good those large language models were, and ChatGPT tokens are cheap, Dad, you can go away and did it. Dad went away and did it. He asked the product, the ChatGPT tool, for information on how Crossbar, that brand new football soccer social competitor, was doing as it was meant to have opened in June. And the ChatGPT tool had a fantastic hallucination. It told him that the venue was open. It told him that it was doing fantastic. It told him that the Liverpool, as well as the Manchester facility, was open. And luckily, he had the foresight to scroll over to a recent Stinger report and raise an eyebrow and then type back into the tool. It says here in the Stinger report that that facility isn't open yet. And this is what the tool reported. Oh, I must correct myself. Hallucinations. You can't trust this garbage. It is a useful tool if you understand how much a useful tool is. A hammer is a fantastic thing, but please don't try and repair Ming vases with it. It is essential that you understand that these prompt tools are there to help you then go off and do proper research away from AI, because hallucinations are getting worse and worse and worse, because the problem is that the snake is feeding off of its own tail. And what has happened here, I went away and did the research into why ChatGPT suddenly had this hallucination. It was reading a press release that had gone through another tool that had been linked by a news service that hadn't put a comma or a full stop in the right place, leaving it open for the tool to think that the site had opened, rather was planning to open in June. The situation with Crossbar is still very murky. We still don't know when they're going to be throwing their doors open. One of my spies walked past their facility and the doors were firmly closed, so they're not doing soft openings at the moment. But that's a bit of research for another day. The real point that I wanted to bring to the surface here was hallucinations are getting worse, and that is a serious hallucination failure with a very meek and mild apology.
Indeed.
And then we have the migration towards corporations, including this technology, to drive their futures. We touched upon in a recent open shut Jollies, who have opened in Canada, and they are very proud to shout from the rooftops that they are the first AI-powered family entertainment center. When you do a little bit of digging into the research, you find out that they're using QR codes to select food, and they're using a AI language model system in their booking service, and they're using QR codes also for tracking the children running around the facility while the parents are in the nail bar having their nails painted. I get it. It's big to include the word AI in your marketing spiel, but sometimes it needs a little bit of moderation.
Yeah, I think especially given the fact that their dining concept is, not their own, and that's fine. They integrated a group called Masterly Food that actually has done this type of work, but they are even Masterly Food, says it's powered by AI. But it is just an automated food system that, food distribution system. And, I struggle when I was looking at their site earlier in preparation for this, that to find really where their AI is generated, with the exception of maybe some of the interactive chat bot capabilities that the system has.
Yes, it's good to say that you're doing it, but I think you also need to be a little bit more specific so you don't come away looking like hyperbole. And of course, our friends at Rush Max, they're also jumping up and down, talking about how much that they are now incorporating AI in their guest enabling. So where the party booker used to be a human being, they're now using an AI concierge to handle the bookings, to offer the best deal, to work out the best pricing model, and then to give this information back. I would argue that on some occasions this kind of approach works. There are a number of operations outside of entertainment that are using now AI concierges. Our friends at Delta have been testing this approach for the last year, and now all of us Sky Miles members will be dealing with an AI concierge if we want, rather than dealing with a human being. And to be honest, in some occasions when you're moving around quickly and you need to change a flight or need details or information, then maybe an AI system, minus its hallucinations, could be a useful tool.
I think that they certainly can, and as the LLMs continue to get better, the actual use case for these are great, as long as the data that you're feeding into your LLM is robust enough to the point where the chatbot doesn't feel like it has to hallucinate in order to deliver a response. If you provide enough of that background information on your facility, the experience, or in this case, the Delta experience, then it can be a very good tool, at least as an initial touch point.
But it needs to be closely monitored, curated by humans, and also trends need to be taken out and disasters avoided. The human is still needed in the network. Don't think that it can handle itself on its own. Anyway, that's enough of me preaching. I'll get off the soapbox and take off my I told you so t-shirt and say the one place where you're not going to be finding any AI, well, I can't guarantee that 100%. There will be some conversations about AI, but definitely the presentations on stage are 100% human being, and I'm looking forward to be jumping on a plane in a couple of days' time to get out to Indianapolis for Amusement 360. One thing that I hadn't imparted talking about this boot camp for experts and specialists and those entering the location-based and family entertainment market is how much of a boot camp this really is. This is really here for you to get as much maximum information out of this. And this isn't about crowding the room. Our friends at Creative Works, who are behind Amusement 360, is actually capped the number of guests that they have at these events to ensure that those that attend get value for money. And it is very important that we impart this information. You can say that this is the trend throughout the whole of this particular sound off. With all of our sound offs, we're here to share information so we can all learn and grow. And if you really want to come to that event, I know that there's only, at this point in time, I hope none, but no offense, but I think there's only a handful of tickets remaining.
Yeah, always great events. The group at Creative Works, well, used to be Creative Works anyway, putting this on. I always do a great job.
And it's not just boring old me up on stage. There is some other valuable individuals giving insight into operation, development, and application. Anyway, thank you to our LinkedIn, I'll call them news hounds now, for passing on some information to me, which I'm currently delving through as we speak. If you have anything that you'd like to share, hit me up on email, hit me up on LinkedIn, or be part of our social media at the Facebook Friends of the Stinger Report Facebook group. We have some stingers out there. We have some entertainment social arenas out here. There's a lot to catch up on, and you can't use a large language model to do the reading for you.
Indeed. All right. Well, it was a great sound off, Kevin, and glad we finally had a chance to dig into that AI talking point, and we will see you on the next one.
Have a good one.